Welcome to the Frictionless Innkeeper podcast. Coming right up, fresh tips and insights from lodging professionals aimed at helping you improve your business. Our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest app, which helps improve your guest stay without adding more to your day. Learn how at frictionlessguest.com. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Good, Matt. How are you doing?
Doing well. Well, for this podcast that we have today, we're speaking with Samantha Irwin. She's actually the owner of Kaizen Business Coaching and Consulting, and she was actually the owner and operator of a boutique hotel for about 10 years and has kind of translated her experience into providing coaching and tools for small business owners to really focus on customer service experiences.
Yeah, she's got so much hands-on knowledge of training people, with her teaching background, but, especially in hospitality and lodging with having this boutique hotel that she ran for like 10 years. And I mean, regardless, she's just great to listen to. She's just, we have so much fun when we talk to her before the podcast and during the podcast. Hopefully our listeners will appreciate all of that because we just enjoyed talking with her, and she's so outgoing, has so many insights that it's just a lot of fun just to listen to her, no matter what she's talking about, right?
I would agree. Yeah, we had a good time with this one for sure. Yeah, very much so. Awesome. Well, with that, we hope you enjoyed this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Samantha Irwin, who is the owner of Kaizen Business Coaching and Consulting. And Samantha and Steve, thanks for joining us today. And how you both doing?
Excellent. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. Steve, how you doing?
Matt, as always, I'm doing well. Samantha, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Samantha. Appreciate the time. And let's go ahead and kick it off. So would love to hear more about your background. I mean, you're a former owner and operator of a boutique hotel. I believe you were a former teacher as well. So would love to just hear your story.
Yes, I was a former teacher. I'll give you the Cliff's Notes, try to go as quickly through this as possible, but it is important because it builds, all of our life experiences build on themselves and make us what we are today. So always have been interested in business, always. I ended up getting my bachelor's and then I continued on and got my master's of arts in teaching. And I started teaching middle school, where I taught middle school for 13 years and I loved it. I did teach first grade 1 year and I ran for the hills. Loving middle school tells you a bit about my personality. Okay. So I'm a little off. I love it. It's good. So all of those people who are thinking they're having middle school kids right now and at home, they're fun. Just hang in there. So
me included.
You included, Steve. They're great.
And you're from Oregon, and this was in Oregon, and you're in Oregon still, right? You've been in Oregoner or whatever you want to call it?
Oregonian.
Not Oregoner. Oregoner would be bad.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
Okay.
That's all right. We're on different. It's good. So after teaching for 13 years, I jumped full-time into practical business application, full-time. So my husband and I bought a boutique hotel, a historic hotel. For us on the West Coast, it's old. You guys might laugh and snicker, but it was built in 1907. For us, that's an old place. And when I walked in the back door, my heart soared. I could immediately see the vision for the hotel and for the grounds and for the community. So to give you some perspective, it's an 18-room brick building, 3 stories, much as it was in 1907. It was not renovated. So bathrooms down the hall, beautiful plaster work, original glass windows that are all wiggly. And the people who had owned it had done a lot of structural renovation, had kind of had it open for events now and again, but had not been open consistently as a hotel since the 1940s. So when I walked in and I could see the vision for this space, I was very excited. There was not a stitch of furniture in it. None. So I walked into an empty shell of a building with some curtains, some Gone with the Wind curtains, and landscaping that needed some help. And it was located in a town of population 600 people. and there was not a destination. So people definitely thought I was maybe a little crazy, but I could see the vision. I threw up my Hail Mary prayer and I said, oh Lord, if this is it, open up all the doors. And I mean, they opened up. This was in May. And I think I resigned from teaching in June, and we had our house rented mid-August. And we moved into my parents' borrowed trailer with a dog and 2 cats into the parking lot of the hotel so that I could start the renovation and restoration process. So, and my husband got a motorcycle so he could commute to work. That was the deal. So that was my jumping in full time to owning a boutique hotel, which I owned for 10 years. So yeah.
And talk about that location, because I mean, aside from some of the crazy things you already mentioned, this was not Destination USA type material, right?
No, you're insightful, Steve. You're correct. So 600 people, it was 2 hours from where we would draw our clients. So our ideal community, or our IC or ICA. We were literally 2 or 3 hours away from any major metropolis. So you're right. It wasn't a draw. There wasn't the Grand Canyon. There wasn't a waterfall. There wasn't a theme park. It was Mayberry. The streets rolled up at 7:00. The one grocery store was open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And there was a bar across the street that was the only business establishment to eat at, other than if you did a takeaway at the grocery store. So it was beautiful though. The weather is gorgeous. There's over 300 days of sunshine a year there. We did not have to lock the front door. It's a place where you keep your keys in your car. You could leave your bikes on the front lawn. It's a gem of a community. It's just a gem. And the building I fell in love with it.
It's a cool
I did
place.
a lot of, yeah.
And it's called the Balch Hotel in Dufur?
Close. It's
Balch.
Historic Balch Hotel in Dufur, Oregon, Dufur, Oregon. And we no longer own it. We had to sell it after about 10 years because of some parental needs, but I still miss it and love that industry. And so it was literally drinking from the fire hose, honestly, because after 11 months of restoration, so imagine I moved into this trailer with my husband, bless his heart, and 2 cats and a dog. And I'm starting to do the restoration on this hotel, which is plaster repair, lots of stripping of woodwork. I mean, this is an adult show, right? So we joke that I went from teaching to stripping from my income. Stripping woodwork, of course.
And you lived in a trailer.
And we lived in a trailer. That's right. Oh my gosh, let's do everything. Oh God, Matt's just we're going to edit this out, man. This is terrible.
Now, what year was this? 2000 it was the
2005? Oh gosh, was it 6-ish? 5, 6? 2006, okay. I think. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the other insights, you've got all of this crazy restoration stuff that you're doing on your own, but I was asking about the location because it's like you say, it's more than 2 hours from Bend. It's an hour and a half from Portland or something, right?
Yep.
So, but you do have the area, the beauty of the area, and I guess some things to do around there. But in 2006, I don't know, it's, social media was starting to take hold, I guess, kind of, but you really, you had aside from a restoration challenge, you also had a marketing challenge, right? Yeah,
you are right. Isn't it funny to think that social media wasn't really a thing back then? The internet and a website was. Yeah, wow, time flies. So yes, you're correct. So 11 months of restoration, hadn't been open since the 40s consistently. So I'm not taking over an existing business. We're starting quite in the hole, literally, with we had to furnish the entire place. First of all the restoration, a lot of sandpaper. I close my eyes and I see sand, the little sand whirls as my sandpaper burned up on random orbital sander. So I've lost my train of thought. How about that? I was just nostalgically thinking about social media and how it wasn't around.
Well, that's because you're still caught up in the restoration.
Yes.
Which
still thinking about sandpaper.
So you've been through the restoration part, but with that, you don't have to worry about guests, right?
Right.
But once the restoration's done and you're like, okay, we're open for business, how do you get the guests there?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
You're starting from, there's no name or brand or whatever associated with this place. It's not, you can't book online, whatever. So how do you get in there?
Right. It's a very good question, because we had to get the word out, and then we had to, know who we were and who we were trying to get. I literally ate a vast majority of what would be called a marketing budget in sandpaper. So quickly figured out that the best kind of advertising was word of mouth advertising. And it was in order to get the good word of mouth advertising, we had to give great service. We had to provide an experience that made people want to talk about it, honestly. And what do you do when you don't have, the waterfalls for the experience? You're providing it by the uniqueness of the property and the experience and the interaction with the people who are there. So that's how it started. We had a couple people, obviously, people were curious about who we were and what the heck we were doing. And so we had a lot of lookers, looky-loos stopping, and was very fortunate to have a friend of Lee Weinstein, who owned Weinstein PR, come and ask us what we were doing. They told him, he happens to live out in the area. He used to be like a VP at Nike or something like that before he started his own PR firm. And he called me, and he's the nicest guy. He and his wife, Melinda, are friends of ours now. And they did I'm like, a press release? Okay, what's that? So he wrote it for me. And it started from there. And we had John. He and his wife would come and they would stay in room 15 every summer solstice. And he wrote for the Oregonian, and they came and he did a piece for us based on the experience in the Oregonian. So that's kind of how it started. And then from there I'm cutting out a lot of the interim, but imagine a lot of mistakes, a lot of applying book knowledge to practical boots on the ground knowledge, and married the two and found that, honest to goodness, all the marketing in the world is great, but it's like putting lipstick on a pig. If the experience that people are having when they're at our property doesn't match the marketing, or it falls short, they're not going to want to talk about it, and they're not going to want to come back, and they're not going to want to tell other people. So that in itself was the key for growth, really.
Yeah. So you start getting people, you get some buzz, and you start getting people to the hotel through that word of mouth. And social media is really just word of mouth, just through a digital means, right? It's the same concept. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
So you build it up through treating people the way they should be treated, with your own special approach, and making them feel incredible. So at some point you got 18 rooms, right? Mm-hmm. And your husband's helping, or is he working full time? So
he's working full time, and he's helping also. Yeah. Because at first it was me, and I needed a cook for breakfast stuff. The other thing I need to note is, yes, a lot of marketing, but finding those right customers was really identifying what we were and what we were not. Right. Mm. So I ended up having a script that I used, because we needed to educate people about things and think about from the customer's perspective, right? When you're any business this applies to, we want to think about that customer journey, when we're doing marketing or we're offering a new whatever, any part of that customer journey, we have to take ourselves out of the curse of knowledge of knowing everything about where we are, and put ourselves in the shoes of the customer. So our customer was coming to Mayberry, in essence, air quotes, Mayberry, right? So they were coming from, say, Portland or Bend, where at any hour of the day or night, you could get any kind of food you wanted, right? And they were used to coming in and being able to self-check-in, or have, check in at 10 or 11 p.m. Well, that wasn't really going to work for me, because I'm a morning person, and like, you needed to check in by 9 o'clock, or I'm going to bed and leaving your cookies on the front thing and a note how to get in. So part of when people called us to make reservations, at first they called us, right? So at first they called us, And there were a series of questions that I would ask people. First of all, have they been here before? Typically, the answer was no, especially at the beginning. And then if they hadn't been to the hotel before, then my second question was, had they been to Dufur before? And if they said yes, I knew that they had this base of knowledge. If they said no, I knew that there were some things that they needed to know prior to getting here. Like, it's Mayberry. Streets roll up and there's no place to eat after 7 because at the beginning we didn't offer dinner services. It was curating the customer experience from well before they even got to us, which is what marketing is. And it's what communication is. So it was a lot of fun, but we had this big script that we went through just to make sure that people, they knew what we were and what we weren't. Because if they wanted a party place to drink beer all night and be rowdy and yell, that was not us. If they wanted a place to bring their pets, that wasn't us. If they wanted a place to bring their children and their families, that wasn't us either, because we didn't have rooms that would work. We were no TV, no elevator, no pets, kids. We had internet, so people could have a quiet work retreat. So it was first knowing who we were so we could attract and educate the right audience. So yes, and then giving those people.
Sorry. As Frank Zappa said, you are what you is, right?
I like that.
I mean, might as well be straight with them, right?
Right.
I mean, don't be something that you're not.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I thought you were going to say, have you ever been to Dufur? And the answer would be either yes or where.
Right.
So
it was surprising how many people had come to Dufur or had been around that area because they knew something I didn't. A couple of things. The sunshine was amazing. The roads for bicycling, cycling, motorcycling, or old vintage cars were great. So, yeah.
Cool. So the people, if you fix it up, they will come. They came. And then you had to start hiring some people, right? I mean, interacting with the guests, right? And that's got its own challenge, maybe even more difficult than some of the other challenges, right? Because once you got it up and running and it's you kind of as the face of the business, you know what the message is going to be because you're the one giving it. But if you can't, if you're no longer always there 24/7 in front of the guests, then you've got another challenge there, right? Which is, how do I keep this incredible service, this experience kind of thing that I've created? How do I pass that on and make sure that the guest experience is the same regardless of who is in front of the guest? Right?
You hit the nail on the head. Yeah. And for this type A, very particular about the product or the service person, it was difficult to let go of my baby, honestly. So, but it was very apparent that I could not be the housekeeper, the front desk person, the groundskeeper, the cook, the cleaner. And I can't do all that. So yes, very quickly had to hire people to help. And so part of that customer journey or that customer experience. So if we had a vision here, I could put, people probably have Googled, or they could just Google images of customer experience journey, right? And if you're not familiar, you can just go and Google it and you'll come up with a map, like an in and out road, or typically it's a linear diagram. That customer experience journey has what you call touch points, right? So there's the touch point of maybe, your social media. And then there's the touch point of the next part of their journey, which is your parking lot. And then the next part of your journey is inside your lobby. And then the next part is with your people. And then the next part is in the rooms. Yeah, you have these touch points along this journey. I very much like to think of those journeys, take the two sides, the in and out of that map, and put them together and make it a loop. Because it costs 6 to 7 times more money to acquire a new customer than it does to keep an existing customer. So when we have curated that experience, we want those people who are the right customers, who are our ideal community, that top 20%. Those are the ones we want to come back. We want to have them in that loop, to come right back, to refer people, to bring people with them. So yes, all of that part of that, people are having an experience, no matter if you curate it or not. So 100%, I was really picky about that, curating that experience and having my staff provide this excellent experience, because people weren't coming for a waterfall. They were coming because of the uniqueness of our boutique hotel property. And part of that was consistency in the experience with the people. So yeah, had to hire and translate what was in my brain. And that was fun, but that's where my teaching background came in. So that was handy.
Right. That makes sense. And I want to talk about what you do now, because like you say, the journey to get to where you are now, it's all based upon teaching and then having your own business and starting this boutique hotel. Mm-hmm. And then having to train folks and hire and train and all of that.
Hard thing to do.
Yeah. So, but before we get to that, just to finish up on the Balch Hotel, the Historic Balch, when you, after 10 years of doing this, when you sold, I think your ratings are like on Google, I think they are now still like 4.9 or something.
Yeah.
Where were you by the time you left? Just to give people perspective on what your occupancy rates were, as well as your ratings and all that stuff. Where did you get to? Like when you sold it, like were 80% occupancy, or where were you?
Thank you for asking that question. I'm not that great at tooting my own horn. And so I appreciate the lead in. I don't recall the numbers. And for transparency, numbers don't stick in my head. So I can't remember what they were. I do remember like experiences and things and people stick in my head. We did have the highest rating you could get on TripAdvisor. The proof in the pudding was like one guest came, or a couple, they came an incredibly frequent amount of times. And it was because of the experiences we provided them. And you have to remember, like the value in that customer, that it's Beth and Andy, right? Beth Harrington, she's a filmmaker, and Andy Lockhart, and he's a volcanologist, is a volcano scientist. I know, isn't that not the coolest name? I would never have met them had we not had the hotel. And she is one of these people that I just smushed together with right away. I felt like she was my long lost, sister from another mister. So that's kind of the proof of the pudding. That's where when I left it, we had this clientele that loved coming. And they also didn't always just love coming for me, because my staff was able to give that same experience. I was able to, at that point, back away and work on my business instead of always in my business, because of the power of the people that I had trained and hired. That is where my passion lies very, very solidly right now. In that customer experience journey, the power of the people-to-people interaction is the most neglected, the most undertrained, and the most powerful part. Technology cannot replace, it should enhance the person-to-person connection. Like, I'm going to put a plug here. You didn't ask for this, but the Frictionless Innkeeper app, had that been around when we had the hotel, or had I known about it, it would have been the most perfect connection to enhance our customers' experience, because it didn't replace that person-to-person important interaction, but it enhances it greatly. So if anybody's listening, just go get it.
You haven't even used it. Come on now.
I did the tutorial with you. I've been there. I know. I'm like, this would have been perfect from a customer experience enhancement and gaining customer loyalty and helping your staff be involved and feel more valued, which helps retention. And I could just list them all on. I'm like, this is an unpaid plug. Just go get the app. Get to the app, whatever.
So, all right. So you got all of this experience. So like you said, there were maybe family reasons or whatever for after 10 years saying, okay, we're going to sell. You sell. And then you already, knowing you already had a vision for what you were going to do afterwards. I doubt you were just like, okay, we're going to sell and I'm going to figure it out. You had to have said, okay, teaching's my thing. Customer experience is my thing. Maybe I'm going to teach people how to give better customer experience, right? I don't know. But so what did you do next, and talk about how you got to what you're doing now?
Oh my God, I'm sweating a little bit, because the question you asked makes me a little nervous, because I went into, yes, I had a vision, but I didn't have the confidence yet to step into it, because I didn't go to business school, right? I have had business classes, but it took me a while to understand that the book knowledge and things that I had compared with the practical boots on the ground application and marrying the two is really valuable. So that's why I'm sweating. Like, it took me a while to realize that and get there. But yeah, I did have the vision for sure. And it was like, I was a lot of chicken for a lot of years because the tools that I worked on and developed in my business are ones that those are the ones I've desired to create. So for other people, so not just that I'm using them in my business, but I have the Power People Academy where I have two tools. One is an intensive 6-week course, and the other one is a more of a DI, do it with you, kind of a 52 weeks of training, but it's more of a do on your own kind of a thing. And so those are the things that I had, like with the Frictionless Innkeeper app. These are the two things that I would have 100% used in my business to solve a lot of those growth problems. And the hardest part of those growth problems is training, empowering, and equipping staff in order to do a really good job at serving the customer. Because they say 70% of buying experiences are based on how someone feels they are being treated. And that's a soft skill. Like, that's a soft skill. So I am super passionate about providing owners with those tools to empower and train their staff to come alongside them because it's so needed. It's just so needed. And it will solve a lot of problems for people. Who wants high turnover? I've been there. Who wants people saying, oh yeah, I'm going to be here all summer, and they give you 2 weeks notice? I had a kid one time showed up one day. Like, what? Yeah. So that's no fun.
What was the purpose of that?
I don't know. Tax my memory as to who was this person. So yeah. And then people who stayed with me for years and years because of the things I learned and how to really connect people and value people. So yeah, I love that part.
So talk about your offering. So you say I know you've got this culture deck thing. Mm-hmm. And then did you say the people?
Power of people.
Power of people. Yeah. So talk about the kind of clients that you work with. I mean, mostly smaller businesses, right? Yes. And it's all about face-to-face. Is that's what it's all about?
Yes, you're super smart. Yep. It's about the face-to-face. So I work with business owners and their staff, business owners who have face-to-face staff. So they have a team of people who interact face-to-face with their customers. That's it, kind of in a nutshell. And that is my passion is small businesses because, boutique hotels, small businesses, places that don't have some other corporation or franchise feeding them the tools that they need in order to grow and scale and be really good at what they do. So that's my niche, is to provide those small business owners, the boutique hotels, the small brick and mortars that have a staff that interact face-to-face with customers with those tools.
So if the culture deck thing is more of a do-it-yourself kind of thing, that's more your specific clients you're working with, and talk about how that works, what you do for those clients.
Sure. Now, the people who buy these or get involved in the course, whichever one, they need to have a core value of understanding that people are valuable. So if an owner is just like, oh no, it's all the bottom line and people are disposable and they're going to be in and out, they just need to keep walking on. But the people who know, like, yeah, these people are valuable. I want to create a culture where they're valued. This is a relationship. Those are the people that fit. So the two things. So the intensive course is a 6-week intensive transformational course that is online and through Zoom meetings. So I meet with the team once a week, and each week in typical teacher form, we cover a different topic. And so the goal of that 6-week course is to take people being your staff, from knowing how to do what I call the tasks, right? How to do the tasks, to understanding and being empowered and knowing how to do the skills. So the soft skills, because let's face it, this might get me in trouble, but it's true. Most business owners get into business because they're excited about the product or the service. That does not mean that they're good at training people. It's a different skill altogether. So the 6-week course takes staff through, and the owner, through these different, learning these different things each week, a different topic each week. And then they're taking that knowledge that I'm teaching them, they're connecting it to their brain and their own knowledge, and then they're transferring that and applying it to the business. So the goal is to create people who are not only engaged and empowered, but they're knowledgeable and they're becoming partners in the business. So that's the 6-week course in a nutshell. And then I've designed it so that they can use it again and again to increase the speed at which they onboard people. So it's like it's yours. Use it. Now you're on your own. You don't need my weekly support. Go for it. And you're going to get people from starting to being proficient in a much faster way. It's like, I think it's always surprising, but the statistic that says the amount of time for a new hire to reach full productivity is between, I should have you guess this, right? It depends, of course, on what the job is, but
right. Yeah.
You want to guess?
Yeah. So this would be for a frontline person, like,
yeah, let's take that.
Like an innkeeper, or someone who's there greeting guests,
sure,
and is there to help out, or
front
whatever.
desk.
Yeah, front desk type person. Let's see, full time, 6 weeks. I don't know.
Good guess. Great guess. How long to get from full productivity? Yeah. So where they're independent, 6 weeks.
Probably
Perfect.
a lot longer than that. It's
Do you have a guess, Matt?
Matt
8
never
weeks.
talks.
Never talks.
That's it.
Sorry.
Well, it's like the typical podcast. There's always like the guy on the side who does like the research and stuff, the verified stats. So I can take over that role too. Yes, Steve is correct.
Hey, Matt, check that for me, would you?
Yes,
Now go back to not talking.
Yes.
My fact checker.
I'm the fact checker. Yeah.
Now, this is your opinion. So what do you think, Matt? How many weeks? Go high.
I say 8 weeks.
Perfect. You guys the same. So the statistic that I have is that the typical is from, oh, crikeys. Now you guys have got me guessing. Which one is it? It's from 8 to 20 weeks, or is it 6 to 20 weeks? 8 to 20 weeks, I believe.
Oh.
You'd think I'd have this. I told you numbers weren't in my head. I remember it's from something to 20. I believe it's 8 to 20 weeks to get from, up to full productivity. So that's a long time. That's a lot of lost income, because if you think about it, as Steve, you hired me for the front desk, and Matt's the person who's helping train me. During the time I'm in my training phase, not only am I not up to full productivity, Matt's not either, because I have to interrupt him and help him. He has to help me all the time. Yes. So the amount of revenue lost is tremendous. So the goal of any owner should be, first of all, it should be attracting the right person to begin with.
Right.
Then it should be shortening that time, compressing it as fast as possible. And then keeping that person once you've invested in that training. So the Power of People course is the shortening of the time. And then the keeping the people and helping them to understand how valuable they are is the Creating a Culture deck, which is 52 weeks of quotes and stats with a discussion prompt that you can easily use each week to show people how valuable they are. They've got to understand it. I don't know about you, but I hate to go into a store especially one where I know the owner, and I've got a drip for a person at the front desk. It's right front counter. They just are not engaged. They're on their phone. I'm like,
no. Terrible. Yeah. What I love is when you walk up and they look at you and they don't say anything. My wife and I we'll just keep staring. Like, we'll just wait. I'll just wait. And then finally they'll like be, can I help you with something? Like, okay. Amazing. Like, oh, you are human. You're alive.
Right.
So we had talked before about, this mindset. That some people, like you say, hire the right people. You hire more for soft skills than tasks or whatever, right? It's kind of that mindset. So that's important. But I'm sure that the reality is that every lodging professional believes that they are the best with their guests or whatever. And so they have to have they got into it probably with the mindset that, I'm going to give my guests the best service or whatever. But even with the best intent, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are presenting yourself in the best way to the guest, right? So there's something, I guess what I'm saying is, aside from the soft skills of caring about your guest, there's also some hands-on things that can be taught and that you should learn in terms of that is probably part of your course that can make a huge difference. In other words, innkeepers might not realize it, but there's probably some hands-on skills that they could learn that are really important, like smiling or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yes. I did not pay you to say that, I swear. But the second week is, I think it's the second week or first impressions. The second week's course training is about first impressions and how you make a good one. And yes, it is 100% teaching what I call the trifecta. And the trifecta is smile, or it's eye contact, smile, and a greeting. It seems really simple, but like you said, with the example you just gave, people are not training it, and you cannot take for granted that people know how to do this. They will act differently when they're in front of the owner than when they're in front of their guests. And the disconnect is that very thing. What we need to help staff understand is to act that same way, and why it's important to act that same way in front of every single guest. And I make right away, I mean, if you are a frontline customer service staff, kudos. It is one of the hardest jobs to do well. And you've probably experienced those unicorns that are just gifted in hospitality. And it is very difficult because it's selfless. Service is selfless. It's all about the person who's in front of you and serving their needs. It doesn't matter if you've got a headache or if your new puppy just peed in your shoe or whatever, or you spilled coffee. It's all about that guest. So yeah, those soft skills are they're challenging to teach, but that's why I find it super fun. And that's why I wanted to fill the plug and the hole there, is helping people to teach those skills. Because honestly, if a staff knows how valuable they are and they have the tools to execute it on it, they're excited to come to work. They're going to stick around longer because they can contribute. It checks off a felt need for people when they know that they're making a difference. They're not just punching a clock. It makes a huge difference. It's like win, 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 win. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And not everybody knows how to greet people and smile. Even lots of owners don't. They look at you like you just described that person. Hello. That's not very welcoming. Let me come to a guest in your house.
Matt, do we need to reel me in? I think our last thing that we wanted to cover was to talk about kind of the future. Customer service, guest experience, customer service, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your thought on where things are going, trends, or, what our listeners, lodging professionals, innkeepers, what they might want to think about in terms of focus for customer service, guest service?
Yeah. You're asking me, you're not Matt, right?
I'm asking. Yeah, Matt doesn't know anything. Yeah.
Oh,
no, that's hard. Sorry.
Matt knows a lot.
I told you. Yeah.
You can tell he doesn't work for me as a frontline person because he would not be good with the guests the way I treat him.
That's right. That's
sorry.
Yes.
Well, Steve, you said earlier about hiring that personality. Now I want to qualify. If I'm hiring a bookkeeper that's not in front of people, I'm going to hire skill.
Right.
I think I got it from Michael Hyatt. I think that's who I need to give credit to it. If you're hiring for face-to-face frontline customer service people, hire personality, trained skill. I made the mistake one time of doing that. And I wrote a whole blog post and did a video about it. And it was a disaster. Hire personality, trained skill. I did that with my housekeepers. I did that with my kitchen staff, my cook. I did that with everybody. Everybody that was on site, I hired personality and I trained skill, because it does not work as much as you might want it to. It does not work the other way around. So there's old statistics. I'll get to your question. Old statistics about people buying based on feeling, about how valuable a customer is for repeat business. The numbers don't lie. I think people don't like to tackle that part of their business because they don't know what to do. It's hard to train people, but it really shouldn't be ignored because it is a smart marketing and a smart business decision financially to make sure you're paying attention to training your people. That's why people come back. I mean, I could give you a whole list of statistics if you're statistic people, but looking forward, so the numbers support that. Looking forward, there was a great article just this last week that was put out by Matthew Patterson. He writes for Help Scout, which is a customer service blog. You know, the company Help Scout.
Yeah.
And it got me very excited because he wrote about 12 trends, customer service trends for 2022. And number one is that customer services and experiences are increasingly important differentiator. So this is stuff that we already know though, right? But it's just like, if you go to a coffee shop and you have a bad experience and a great cup of coffee, yeah, who wants to go treated like crap? No, you're going to go to the other coffee shop. If you have a great experience with a newbie and, a mediocre cup of coffee, you're probably going to go back. So we already know this, but that's one of the trends for the 2022. Customers will churn more easily. Hence, another reason why it's really important to make sure we're keeping those people. More people are working on mobile devices, which is why the frictionless innkeeper app would be so important.
Which, by the way, it is the frictionless guest. It's the frictionless innkeeper podcast. No, that's okay. But I just want to say the focus should be on the guest, right?
Yes.
For the app. Yes. Right.
Sorry. Yep. I gotta get my verbiage right, my words right. Yeah. So those are just some of the trends that are being predicted in 2022. They are not surprising. Another one was that customer service burnout's at high risk and retaining customer service staff will be harder. Right. All the more reason to support those people that help make the business owner's job easier and to give them the freedom to step away from working that front desk or working on all the things and give that responsibility to very capable hands. We're not abdicating, but give it to very trained hands to help that customer experience, that guest experience.
Yeah, I would think that, and you're right, it's kind of like soft skills, hard skills, whatever. Same thing with numbers. I mean, you can look at numbers all you want, but this should be an intuitive, thing, right?
Common sense.
People should, and I think most lodging professionals and innkeepers know this, but also, and they certainly know that hiring people is difficult. Finding people right now is difficult. Yeah. Everybody in hospitality knows that, right? So it seems to me that if you're fortunate enough to get somebody who's decent, and you can hire them, it's even more important to try to keep them. Just like keeping customers, it's a lot more expensive, right? Yes. There's a lot of cost involved, time and all of that. So I would think that the better trained, talking about what you provide, the better trained your person is, the happier they are, right? Yeah. And the happier you are with them and the better you're going to treat them. So yes. That seems to be all logical to me. And even so, what I'm saying is that I think what you offer is even more important in today's climate. I think it's always important, but not just from the guest or the customer experience, but also from the business's perspective. It seems like it's a worthwhile investment.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I feel that way. It's just kind of nice to have somebody say it, but thank you.
That's a logical conclusion as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. So, Thank you. Yeah. We always want to use our brains, right? Let's look at statistics and think, does this pass the common sense litmus test? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. So I agree. Thank you.
Matt, what do we got?
I think we're at the anything else to add question. So Samantha,
sure you want to ask Samantha that? She can add a lot, I'm sure, if you give her that opening.
Right. I have one thing I would add. I would say kaizen, what that means, it's Japanese for continual improvement. And it's how I live, is my philosophy for life and for business. I'm not a former, I'm a recovering, whatever. I'm always excited by the next thing. And I have to give myself a break and do things imperfectly, take imperfect action. So my last thoughts or whatever, before I get those crazy questions, if you're going to ask me those, is just to take the next step. You don't have to eat the elephant. You just take the next step. Just move the needle, and that's good enough. That's it.
Keep getting better.
Yep.
One piece at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you eat the elephant, right? One elephant, one bite at a time.
Ew.
All right. Should I take us out?
Go for it.
Yeah. Do I get those 3 questions, or because I'm not an innkeeper, I don't get those 3 questions?
Oh, you were listening to other podcasts.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, if you think, but a lot of them are based upon, that's right. So just to let everybody know, we typically, if we're interviewing an innkeeper, then we ask a couple of questions where we're talking more about trends and that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
But since you're not a current innkeeper, I don't know. I don't know if it's worthwhile to ask, unless you feel like you really want to answer those questions.
Well, now I don't remember what the questions are. I remember that
Matt probably isn't prepared for him anyway, because he wasn't thinking. Yeah.
No, I do remember one. One of the 3 questions, I was like, well, I won't be able to answer that one because I don't have people right now. I don't have a business right now. One of them was about how many people, like what your guest, was it millennials? Was it, what was the age of your people?
Demographics. That's right.
Demographics.
Yeah. We were trying to get trends. Yeah. We were trying to get current trends and all of that. So, but you haven't been an innkeeper for almost 5 years now, probably.
Yeah. But we definitely had a specific demographic for sure. Yeah. But I don't remember the other 2, but that's okay. We don't have to ask them. I still feel special.
You are. All right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, without a doubt, before I do my little closing here, I just want to thank Samantha first off for actually listening to probably the most podcasts and being the most prepared for this interview today. And thank you so much for that. This is just an absolute pleasure to have you today. And this concludes this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Samantha Irwin, who is the owner of Kaizen Business Coaching and Consulting. And as you heard, she was the owner and operator of a boutique hotel for 10 years, and she's translated this experience into providing coaching and tools for business owners to enhance their customer service experiences. And our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest app, which helps improve your guest stay without adding more to your day. Learn more at frictionlessguest.com. And Samantha and Steve, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, God, I've had a blast. Matt, Matt, will you write copy for me? Will you write all my copy, please?
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Yes.
I have had a blast. You two are a joy to work with. I'm looking forward to our paths intersecting in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, Samantha. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.